Welcome to this course on big data in the If You Can Cook, You Can Code series. The idea in this series and in this course specifically is that you're going to learn how the technological side of big data works through the use of cooking and kitchen and restaurant metaphors. And what that means is anything that has any math or logic to it or programming where if you don't have that technical knowledge, you wouldn't understand it. What I've done is I've transferred those using metaphors and analogies so that you can understand it even without knowing the technology or the math behind it. And the idea of this course is if you've heard a lot about big data, you've seen big data trends, but you want to know what it actually is, you want to go a level deeper into it, this is the course for you. Even if you have no technical background, and especially if you have no technical background, this is going to be perfect for you because I've tailored everything in this course so that you don't need to have ever written a line of programming or of code. You don't ever have to have done any programming or anything else like that in order to understand all the ideas here. And what I recommend if you're somebody who's thinking about going into big data, or you're thinking about creating a company in big data, or you're thinking about a career path, or you're wondering what all the hype is about, that's what this course is for, so that the next step can be going deeper into the technical side, or learning one of these pieces of technology, or going more in depth in any one of these directions. So this is really an introduction that's going to make it much easier when you later decide to go deeper into one of those fields. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the story of big data. So we're going to start with small data, go to big data, and then we're going to talk about huge data, which is coming in the future, and what that means. So you can get an idea of the scale of what we're talking about. The second thing is, what are all the uses of big data? Where is big data used? How is it used on text, on images, on video, on audio? What companies are using it? How are they using it? How does this interact with artificial intelligence and machine learning? How does this have to do with self-driving cars, cloud storage? Why are all these huge companies investing so much in big data? And then the third thing we're going to talk about is the technology. And there's always going to be lots of technologies, but the main one we're going to focus on is Hadoop. The story of Hadoop. Hadoop, sometimes people think, well, is that a programming language? Is that an application? What it really is an ecosystem. It's a framework. It's a bunch of things that work together. It's like the government. Is the government one thing, or is it a lot of different things? Is it an ecosystem? All right, so that's what Hadoop is. You're going to learn about the various technologies inside it. MapReduce, which is the main action that it takes, and HDFS, which is the file storage. And remember, if you've taken my other If You Can Cook, You Can Code courses, especially the first one on how programming works, MapReduce is the basic procedure that Hadoop uses, and HDFS is how it stores data. So the equivalence would be, this would be the steps in the recipe, and this would be how you store the ingredients in the recipe. So we're going to be talking about all this stuff so that by the end of it, if you work in a company where there's big data, if you want to start building a project in the big data ecosystem or the big data, you want to get on that bandwagon and see how it can help your company or how you can get more involved in it in your company. This is going to give you all the basics that you need to know so that if somebody's having a conversation about big data, you're going to be able to start understanding how this stuff works. When people are talking about various industries and you're thinking about, well, where could I apply big data? What are the most interesting applications? Is the thing that this article talking about related to big data? So this course is going to give you a framework where you're going to start seeing big data everywhere, and it's going to really expand how you see a lot of the new services that big companies like Google, Apple, Yahoo, all these big companies, Amazon, Microsoft, what are they doing? Facebook, social media in general, how are they using this technology? And you're going to start to be able to peel back the layers. So you're not just a user and a consumer anymore, but you're starting to see, well, what sort of big data challenges is this company dealing with in order to show me that news feed on Facebook or show me that search feature in Gmail or whatever it is? What's going on with that self-driving car? How is artificial intelligence and machine learning really dependent on big data, both as a storage mechanism, but also different ways of processing information? So when we say big data, it's really referring more to those ingredients. There's a lot more ingredients that need to be transformed into meals or into the next step. But big data also takes into account, you could just as well have called it big processing, because you're not just holding this data, you're also processing it, and you're often processing it in parallel with multiple computers or CPUs or threads running on different parts of the data at the same time. So we're going to be getting much more into that, but this is really important if you want to understand a lot of the new technology that's happening right now. It's not about what programming language, it's not about programming languages at all or how to program. It's about this stuff, which is at a higher level. This is at what I would call the architectural level. And what that means is you're not so much getting into writing code, even though that is part of it, in the same way that when you're building a house, the architect is not concerned with what nails you use and what boards you use and what type of windows you use. They're more considered with the big picture. And big data is the big picture of what a lot of the new technologies and a lot of the future of technology is headed. So this is a really valuable course, and it's going to help you understand courses that are going to come out in the future in this series, where I'm going to go more deeply into Hadoop, as well as artificial intelligence, machine learning, business intelligence, and a lot of other things in the same realm that have to do with the future technology and how programming and coding fits into that. So this is going to be really valuable to give you that big picture that you're then going to be able to start to pick and choose what seems interesting to you, start learning that, and start to peel back that curtain of a lot of the stuff you use, whether it's on your phone or your computer every single day, and start to understand how big data has a piece in all of that. So I encourage you, if this is any of these things that I've talked about here seem interesting to you, I highly encourage you to take this course, because it's going to give you that big picture that is so difficult to get any other way. So if you decide to enroll, I'll see you on the other side.